And then our last case, a 2-year-old thoroughbred filly. It's unraced, but has been in work 1 month. So again, a horse that's not done very much. It's now gone 3 out of 5 lame after its first fast work. So people are a bit concerned that it might have a stress fracture of some sort. Clinically, all it had was a little bit of swelling in the left midcarpal joint. And the referring vets have done an abaxial, a low fall point, and a subcarpal block and haven't blocked the lameness. So notice that the blocking pattern, they've got up to a subcarpal block and it's still lame. So they're wondering, you know, where this is. They've sent it in for a scintigraphy for that purpose because they're not sure where the lameness is. And interestingly, we end up with this focal hotspot on the dorsal aspect of the distal third metacarpal bones biaxially, but worse in the right fore. And notice that that hasn't blocked to a low fall point and a subcarpal block, probably because it's more dorsal. Now, we don't really need CT to diagnose this, but we do, it does show you the new bone production on the front of the left fore. We couldn't see any real defect in the cortex of the bone on that one, but in this one, you've got this defect in the cortex, this lysis extending in, much more extensive new bone production. And the reason I show these is not because we need CT to see it. We could diagnose this with an X-ray, but just to show you that this is an area where we do see catastrophic fractures coming from, and we're going to pick them up in our usual screening with a CT of the lower limb. But, you know, it also shows us nice detail on the fracture. Here they are in transverse, the left not so bad. The right's got this lysis running into the cortex and the overlying new bone production. And then we see it again on the dorsal view, the fracture running across the front of the right fore. And as I say, those are potentially catastrophic, not always if we pick them up early. And of course, this new bone shows up nicely on the 3D imaging. But just to show that if we're screening horses fetlocks, we're going to pick those sort of, that's another fracture, another area to look where we might see a catastrophic fracture developing, although far less common than our condylar fractures. So in summary, standing CT provides rapid 3D imaging of all 4 limbs. It can identify lesions that are challenging to image with other modalities. It provides more complete assessment of an area. So you might see the actual lesion with X-rays, but this allows you more complete assessment, particularly of the subchondral bone areas, those dense subchondral bone areas that are difficult to image with X-rays. Currently, we're not doing wide-scale screening, but we're only imaging cases that regulatory vets have clinical concerns for the big races that are happening in Melbourne. And we do know from our post-mortem studies that we're able to detect changes in the fetlock that carry significant and substantial risk, but we need to do a lot more work to understand what that risk is and be able to make better calls going forward.